Zhenli Yigan, born January 31, 1963 in Shanghai, is a Chinese-Mexican businessman currently under suspicion of trafficking pseudoephedrine or ephedrine precursor chemicals into Mexico from Asia. He is the owner and legal representative of Unimed Pharmachem Mexico, as well as various other Mexican corporations. From 2002 to 2004, Unimed had been legally authorized by the Mexican government to import thousands of metric tons of pseudoephedrine and ephedrine products into Mexico, as a part of its vast importation business. Pseudoephedrine and ephedrine products at the time were widely used in over-the-counter cold medications such as Sudafed, but could also be used by manufacturers of methamphetamine. Audits conducted by Mexican officials between 2002 to 2006 at Unimed showed no improprieties such as improper diversion of any such chemicals. Nevertheless, after Unimed's license to import pseudoephedrine and ephedrine products ended on July 1, 2005, it was alleged that Yigan and certain employees of his violated the law by continuing to import 4 unauthorized containers of pseudoephedrine or ephedrine precursor chemicals into Mexico in late 2005 and 2006. Only 4 of Unimed's 291 imported shipments from Canada, China, England, Germany, Israel, Hong Kong and the United States into Mexico have ever been questioned. In July 2007, the U.S. government filed an indictment charging that the importation of these 4 shipments into Mexico was part of a conspiracy to aid and abet the importation of methamphetamine into the United States. 2 years later, the U.S. case was dismissed with prejudice by the United States District Court for the District of Columbia in August 2009. He is claimed to be a member of the Sinaloa cartel, a charge that Yigan, who has no previous criminal record, has denied. He became a citizen of Mexico in 2002 and was recognized as a wealthy business owner in Mexico before these allegations of wrongdoing arose. Yigan was extradited to Mexico in October 2016, after fighting extradition to Mexico for 9 years while incarcerated in the United States. In 2007, Zhenli Yigan was indicted in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia with a single count of conspiracy to aid and abet the manufacture of 500 grams or more of methamphetamine, knowing or intending that it would be imported into the United States. Federal agents arrested him in a Wheaton, Maryland restaurant on July 23, 2007. From the date of his arrest, Yigan has always maintained that he is not guilty. Prior to the Mexican government's enforcement actions, Yigan was openly building a state-of-the-art pharmaceutical plant in Toluca, Mexico, and in his federal court proceedings, the U.S. prosecutor referred to Yigan as a very sophisticated businessman. Although the criminal allegations arose from Unimed's importation of 4 shipments of alleged precursors of pseudoephedrine and ephedrine during 2005 to 2006, Unimed had still had on hand, in March 2006, an unsold balance of 9.806 metric tons of finished pseudoephedrine products, which had been legally imported in 2004, but which were still sitting in its warehouse. With the consent of Mexican officials, this large quantity of pseudoephedrine products was sold in compliance with the Mexican government's directions. During his U.S. proceedings, Yigan's lawyers pointed out the incongruity of Unimed allegedly importing unfinished pseudoephedrine products while it still had on hand almost 10 metric tons of finished pseudoephedrine products, which had been sitting idly for years, and could have been diverted if criminal activity had been contemplated. They also noted how none of the 4 challenged shipments were listed as containing pseudoephedrine or ephedrine precursors, and that Mexico's government-approved chemist assigned to Unimed, Bernardo Mercado Jimenez, stated under oath that he did not know that the imported substances were prohibited under Mexican law, and that he advised Yigan, who is not a chemist, that the imported substances were legal chemicals not controlled or restricted under Mexican law. Samples taken from the 4 challenged shipments by Mexican officials were never turned over to U.S. authorities for independent testing, as Yigan's U.S. Defense Counsel had requested. The U.S. prosecutor reported that the U.S. government was told that the samples from the first 2 intermediate shipments sampled had been used up in the laboratory analysis. The 4th shipment had been seized by Mexican officials in its entirety, but its contents too apparently have now been destroyed. Questions have also been raised by Yigan's defense experts about the methodology of the earlier testing of these samples conducted in Mexico's laboratories. During Yigan's U.S. prosecution, the lead U.S. prosecutor also openly admitted that I am not proffering that I have interviewed a witness, who is a drug trafficker who said I got ephedrine or pseudoephedrine from him, so that to me would be a smoking gun kind of witness. I don't want the court to think that's what I'm saying because I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's other kinds of testimony. Yigan was scheduled to go to trial on his U.S. charge in September 2009. On June 22, 2009, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a motion to dismiss its case against Yigan, citing Mexico's interests as well as evidential concerns. At a hearing on the same day, prosecutors admitted that one of their key witnesses had recanted. His criminal defense attorneys, Manuel J. Retureta, of Retureta and Wasem, PLLC, and A. Eduardo Balareso vigorously litigated this Brady issue before the Honorable Emma G. Sullivan. As a result of the efforts of Messrs. Retureta and Balareso, all charges brought against Yigan by the government of the United States were dismissed with prejudice on August 28, 2009. Judge Sullivan also noted how this court made numerous inquiries of government counsel as to just what the status of their requests were to get drug samples for testing purposes, to provide evidence for the prosecution, and basically, Mexico just snubbed the United States. Mexico's separate pending criminal charges against Yigan were not dismissed, however, and the U.S. Department of Justice continued its efforts to extradite Yigan to Mexico to face criminal charges there. Renewed efforts by Yigan's lawyers to have him released on bail following the dismissal of his U.S. criminal case proved unsuccessful, and a U.S. magistrate judge ordered that Yigan must remain in custody pending a decision on whether the U.S. can extradite him to Mexico to face charges there. In March 2010, Yigan retained the services of lawyer Gregory S. Smith to represent him in his extradition case before the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. On February 9, 2011, Magistrate Judge John M. Faciola certified Yigan's extraditability to Mexico to face charges there. In his habeas petition, Yigan has argued that in light of the U.S. case's dismissal, his extradition is barred by principles of international double jeopardy. In light of government admissions that Mexico has not set out to prove that Yigan mass-produced methamphetamine itself, Yigan has also claimed that extradition is improper under the legal requirement of dual criminality, and other barriers. The petition also notes how many of Mexico's allegations of wrongdoing underlying the extradition request come from statements made by disgruntled and/or fired former employees of Unimed, and that the Mexican arrest warrants listed main accomplice of Yigan has since recanted. In addition, the key Mexican prosecutors responsible for Mexico's charges against Yigan have themselves since left office. Jorge Joaquin Diaz Lopez, the lead prosecutor who swore out and presented Yigan's Mexican arrest warrant, submitted a voluntary irrevocable resignation in January 2009, following a Mexican anti-corruption initiative known as Operación Limpieza Operation Cleanup, although Mexico continues to claim that Diaz resigned for personal reasons. Diaz's boss at the time, Noe Ramirez Monduyano, who served as the head of Mexico's National Organized Crime Unit, was himself later criminally charged and jailed in November 2008, after allegedly receiving $500,000 in exchange for providing sensitive information to drug cartels in Mexico. Zhenli Yigan was extradited to Mexico in October 2016. In March 2007, the Mexican government entered Yigan's home and seized hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. In an interview with the news agency AP, Yigan explained he agreed to keep the money in his home after his life, as well as those of his family, were threatened by members of Mexico's PAN party. Two Chinese citizens Yan Yongying and Fu Huaxin were apprehended along with others on July 23, 2007. On December 5, United Farm Chem had seen 19,497 kilos of a product that Mexican authorities claimed contained a controlled precursor chemical seized. Other individuals affiliated with his companies and the challenged importations were also arrested. On July 9, 2010, however, defendant Juanlica Diaz was declared innocent in a Mexican court, and acquitted of organized crime and drug charges. Mexico's Judiciary Council issued a statement noting that prosecutors had failed to prove key parts of their case, including that the substance seized was a psychotropic or narcotic drug. 2012, two brothers of Yigan, who had been arrested shortly after the initial seizures in 2007, were also ordered released from custody by the Mexican courts. In more than 6 years since the original seizures and arrests, no person affiliated with any of these events has yet been convicted of any crime, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. At the time of his arrest, it was reported that Yigan was listed as wanted by a number of countries by Interpol, although no country other than the U.S. and Mexico ever filed any criminal charges. Yigan was said to be in the U.S. as he was supposedly spotted in Las Vegas at the moment of the seizure of the cash and in New York City afterwards. He was arrested without incident at a restaurant in Wheaton, Maryland on July 24, 2007. The fortune, reportedly found by the police on March 15, 2007 at his residence at Lomas de Chapultepec in Mexico City included the following: $207 million US, 18 million Mexican pesos, 200,000 euros, 113,000 Hong Kong dollars, 11 centenarios Mexican gold bullion coins made of 1.20565 ounces T 37.5 grams of pure gold. A great amount of jewels, of unknown value. Confiscated along with the money were also two Mexican-style dwellings of approximately 20 million pesos, a war chest of automatic guns, one lab in construction of unknown value, 7 vehicles. 9 persons were arrested, 4 of them of Asian origin. Defense lawyers in Yi Gan's U.S. criminal case asked to view all of these seized materials, but they were never produced in the U.S. by Mexican officials. U.S. prosecutors reported that the seized cash had not been retained by Mexican officials as evidence, but instead had been counted and deposited into bank accounts. Many seized contents of Yi Gan's home, located in Mexico City's suburb of Lomas de Chapultepec, were subsequently auctioned off by Mexican officials. The police raid of Yi Gan's home and businesses in Mexico, on March 15, 2007, took place one day after a high-level meeting occurred between U.S. President George W. Bush and Mexican President Felipe Calderón in the Mexican city of Mérida on March 14, 2007, at which both presidents announced plans to expand bilateral and regional counter-narcotics and security cooperation. Later, on October 22, 2007, the U.S. and Mexico jointly announced their Mérida Initiative, named after the city where both presidents had met. The Mérida Initiative involved a multi-year plan in which the U.S. would provide significant financial assistance to the Mexican government, plus smaller amounts to other Latin American countries, to help them combat drug trafficking and other organizations. Pursuant to this $1.1 billion announced Mérida Initiative, the Bush administration eventually requested $500 million from Mexico in supplemental FY 2008 appropriations, plus another $450 million from Mexico in its FY 2009 budget request. 2 Mexican federal agents who were involved in the arrests at the Zhenli Yi Gan mansion were found dead in the southern Mexican state of Guerrero, as reported on August 2, 2007. Yi Gan was not among the persons who had been arrested by these agents several months before, however, and no charges have ever been filed suggesting any link whatsoever between their deaths and Yi Gan. Yi Gan's name has also been referenced in connection with subsequent money laundering investigations, including one involving Las Vegas Sands. Sands attorneys have reportedly defended against these allegations by noting how Sands had conducted due diligence on Yi Gan, and concluded that his funds sent to the casino were not laundered, after sending a private investigator and company employee down to Mexico to confirm that Yi Gan was a legitimate businessman. According to the Mexican authorities, Yi Gan's money is the product of drug trafficking activities. However, Yi Gan asserts that he was forced by Javier Lozano Alarcón, Secretariat of Labor and Social Welfare, to keep it at his home, and that this money would be used during Felipe Calderón's presidential campaign in 2006. Felipe Calderón denied connection with the money and said it was invention by Yi Gan to avoid prosecution. An expert report filed in Yi Gan's habeas corpus case, authored by Georgetown University professor of Latin American Studies Mark Chernick, has deemed this explanation plausible, given Latin America's electoral history of clientelism run by party bosses, and the unusually close nature of Mexico's 2006 presidential elections. After his initial examination in Mexican custody, Yi Gan's lawyer Rogelio de la Garza stated on October 21, 2016 that his client was calm and looking forward to demonstrating that there was nothing illegal about the money found at his home. A poll by the daily newspaper Diario Reforma found that most Mexicans either buy Yi Gan's story that he was framed by government officials or believe neither side. Bumper stickers reading "I believe the Chinamen are for sale."